growing in harmony, the hidden language of companion planting. All right, gardeners, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into one of the most powerful, natural, and honestly magical techniques you can use to transform your garden: companion planting. This isn't just about placing plants next to each other. It's about understanding the hidden conversations happening beneath the soil, through the air, and across your garden beds. When you learn how plants support, protect, and strengthen one another, your garden becomes more than a collection of crops. It becomes a living ecosystem that practically runs itself. Before we dive deeper into specific plant partnerships, let's talk about why companion planting is such a game changer. Because once you understand the benefits, the whole system starts to make sense. One of the biggest advantages is natural pest control. Most garden pests rely on scent to locate their favorite crops. When you mix strong-smelling herbs and flowers throughout your beds, things like basil, marigolds, rosemary, mint, and nasturtiums, you create a kind of aromatic camouflage. These scents confuse insects, mask the smell of vulnerable plants, and make it harder for pests to zero in on your tomatoes, peppers, squash, or greens. Instead of spraying chemicals, you're letting the plants do the work for you. Another huge benefit is better pollination. When you add nectar-rich flowers like dill, borage, nasturtiums, marigolds, and sunflowers, you attract bees, butterflies, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects. These pollinators move through your garden, visiting blossoms and helping fruiting crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, melons, and peppers produce more flowers and ultimately more food. A garden full of flowers is a garden full of life, and that life directly boosts your harvest. Companion planting also improves soil health in ways that are subtle but incredibly powerful. Plants like beans and peas are natural nitrogen fixers. They pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it into the soil, enriching it for heavy feeders like corn, squash, tomatoes, and brassicas. Deep-rooted crops like watermelon and asparagus pull nutrients from lower layers of the soil, while taproot crops like carrots and radishes break up compaction and improve drainage. When you mix root depths and nutrient needs, your soil becomes richer, loose, and more productive every season. And then there's smart space management, one of the most underrated benefits of companion gardening. When you pair tall, sun-loving plants with low shade-tolerant ground covers, you maximize your growing space while protecting the soil. Tall crops like corn, tomatoes, and okra create natural shade for lettuce, spinach, beets, and herbs. Ground-covering plants like squash and nasturtiums help suppress weeds, retain moisture, and keep the soil cool. Interplanting fast-growing crops between slow-growing ones lets you harvest early while the bigger plants are still developing. Even in small gardens or containers, companion planting helps you grow more food in less space. Together, these benefits create a garden that's healthier, more productive, and far easier to maintain. Instead of fighting nature, you're working with it, and the results speak for themselves. Companion planting has been practiced for thousands of years. Early farmers didn't have fertilizers, pesticides, or fancy soil amendments. What they did have was observation. They noticed that certain plants grew better together, stayed healthier, and produced more food. Today, we understand why. Plants communicate through scent, root chemistry, structure, and the insects they attract. Some release natural chemicals that repel pests. Others mask the scent of vulnerable crops. Some break up compacted soil, while others provide shade, support, or living mulch. When you start planting with intention, your garden becomes stronger, more resilient, and a whole lot easier to manage. Let's start with one of the most iconic partnerships: tomatoes and basil. Basil's strong fragrance repels aphids, whiteflies, and hornworms, while attracting pollinators that help tomatoes set more fruit. Many gardeners swear basil even improves tomato flavor. Tomatoes also thrive near marigolds, carrots, onions, and parsley, but they should be kept far away from corn, potatoes, and fennel. Corn and tomatoes share destructive pests. Potatoes spread blight, and fennel stunts tomato growth. When you tuck basil and marigolds around your tomato plants, you're creating a protective, fragrant shield that boosts production and keeps pests guessing. Another powerful alliance is carrots and onions. Carrots send long taproots deep into the soil while onions stay shallow, so they don't compete. But the real magic is in the scent. Onion aroma confuses carrot flies, making it harder for them to locate your carrot roots. Carrots return the favor by loosening the soil around onions, improving airflow and drainage. Carrots also grow well with radishes, rosemary, lettuce, and chives, but should be kept away from dill, fennel, and parsnips. Dill and fennel stunt carrot roots, and parsnips attract similar pests. Now let's talk about a quieter but extremely effective duo, strawberries and garlic. Strawberries are prone to fungal diseases and moisture-loving pests. Garlic releases natural compounds that suppress those threats and strengthen the soil. As garlic matures, it continues improving the soil environment, helping strawberries grow bigger, sweeter, and healthier. Strawberries also enjoy the company of bush beans, spinach, borage, and lettuce, but should be kept away from cabbage family crops, which compete heavily for nutrients and attract pests that harm strawberries. One of my personal favorites is the partnership between cucumbers and dill. Cucumbers rely heavily on pollinators, and dill is like a magnet for beneficial insects. Its delicate yellow flowers attract bees, butterflies, and predatory insects that keep pests under control. Cucumbers also grow well with beans, peas, radishes, sunflowers, and marigolds. Sunflowers even provide natural climbing support. But cucumbers should be kept away from potatoes, sage, and rosemary. Potatoes compete for nutrients and attract beetles, while strong aromatic herbs like sage and rosemary stunt cucumber vines. Let's move to beans, one of the most generous plants in the garden. Beans fix nitrogen into the soil, enriching it for heavy feeders like corn, potatoes, cucumbers, and radishes. Beans thrive near corn, potatoes, cucumbers, and radishes, but they should never be planted near onions, garlic, leeks, or fennel. Alliums inhibit legume growth and can stop beans from thriving altogether. Speaking of corn, it forms one of the most famous companion systems in history, the Three Sisters Garden. Corn provides a tall, natural trellis for pole beans. Beans fix nitrogen into the soil, feeding the corn and squash. Squash spreads across the ground, shading out weeds and keeping the soil cool and moist. This ancient indigenous method is a perfect example of how plants can support one another in a complete balanced system. Corn also grows well with pumpkins, melons, peas, and cucumbers, but should be kept away from tomatoes, which share the same destructive corn earworm pest. Let's talk about peppers. Peppers love growing near basil, onions, spinach, carrots, and okra. Basil provides dense ground cover that traps moisture and deters thrips, but peppers should be kept away from beans and fennel. Beans compete for nutrients and can overwhelm pepper roots, while fennel stunts pepper growth. Potatoes are another crop with strong preferences. They thrive near beans, corn, cabbage, marigolds, and horseradish. Marigolds protect potato tubers from root knot nematodes, and horseradish strengthens the soil. But potatoes should be kept away from tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, and sunflowers. Tomatoes spread blight, cucumbers and squash attract beetles, and sunflowers compete for nutrients. Brassicas, including broccoli, cabbage, and kale, benefit from aromatic companions like celery, onions, potatoes, beets, and mint. These scents help mask brassicas from cabbage moths. But brassicas should be kept away from tomatoes, peppers, and strawberries, which compete for nutrients and attract pests that harm brassicas. Lettuce and greens are some of the most flexible plants in the garden. They grow beautifully with radishes, carrots, chives, and strawberries. Radishes loosen the soil for delicate lettuce roots. Lettuce doesn't have many enemies, but it's best to avoid planting it near crops that attract heavy slug populations, like brassicas. Now let's zoom out and talk about the universal protectors, the plants that help almost everything. Marigolds release a compound called alpha-terthionol that kills root knot nematodes. Nasturtiums act as trap crops, pulling aphids away from your vegetables. Basil repels thrips, hornworms, and whiteflies while boosting pollination. These plants are like your garden security team, and weaving them throughout your beds creates a natural defense system. Companion planting isn't an exact science. What works in one region may behave differently in another. But it gives you a powerful foundation. When you observe your garden, record what works, and adjust each season, you become part of the story your garden is telling. And when you share your results, you help other gardeners grow stronger, healthier gardens too. Companion planting is more than a technique. It's a mindset. It teaches us that growth happens through connection, that diversity creates strength, and that harmony is something we can cultivate with our own hands. When you plant with intention, your garden becomes a living example of cooperation and balance. And as you watch your plants thrive together, you'll feel that same sense of connection growing within you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about creating a thriving, natural garden, please like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and share this video with someone who loves to grow.